Hi, my name is Sheena Griffiths-Baker. It's the 3rd of November 2024, 2 days before my 63rd birthday, in fact. Thank you, Stan, for inviting me to participate in Art by Artists. I was born in London in 1961. My mum was a physiotherapist and dad was an architectural technician working for a company called Shepherd Robson. When I was very young, they toed and froed a bit across the Irish Sea following work. And so my earliest memories are, in fact, of Dublin. When I was about 4, Dad became a mature student at Canterbury School of Architecture in Kent. And so we came to live in a very old half-timbered house in the Kentish village of Chilham. I still remember the ancient feel of this place, with its barely altered old houses and its medieval church, and it even had a castle. One day, we came across an archaeological dig taking place on the Kent Downs. I would have been about 5 at this point. Dad explained to me what was going on, and from that moment I was fascinated by the concept of the past and how it could be held in the landscape or in a building. When I was 5, Dad got a job in Northern Ireland, and so we moved once again, this time to a small townland called Fishlochan. Growing up there, I used to spend hours and hours in the fields and woods down by the River Bann. Often we would get in the car and go off to walk on empty beaches, which there are many on the Atlantic coast. I was often lost in an internal world of a long romantic daydream and story during these times. Visits to my aunt's house were an early influence, oddly enough. The house my aunt lived in held the treasures of my mother's and her sister's childhoods. There were toys and objects from the 1930s, 40s and 50s, but particularly there were old books of fairy tales and stories containing beautiful illustrations by artists like Arthur Rackham and Edmund Dulac. Now, however, it's the landscape of Rutland and its ancient villages here that provide a context for my work. Maybe I could say that my practice attempts to bring together how I experience my external world and an internal world in which there's an emotional response to imagination and memory. I kind of think of myself as a self-taught painter, although I have had experience of being an art student a long time ago. My biggest influence, I love really early medieval paintings, like those of the 13th century Siena school, for example, until they were all sadly wiped out by a plague. I love the decorative qualities and colour of Indian miniatures too. As in early Italian church painting, there's not much heed paid to perspective really, and the size of figures in the paintings depend on how important they are in the story. So I think I've definitely absorbed that freedom. I love English and American folk paintings for their storytelling about simple things too. However, my biggest influence has actually been the work of the English painter and colourist Anna Pugh. She's now in her 80s and continues to paint beautiful narrative paintings full of wonderful detail and colour combinations, sometimes surreal and always magical, and she has been a huge inspiration. Right now, I'm focusing on finishing 2 commissions, oddly enough. I hadn't intended to accept commissions because really they're about trying to interpret someone else's story, and I wasn't sure how that would work for me, so I'm just seeing how it goes. My biggest challenge as an artist is in creating time in order to think and paint. Well, I'm semi-retired now, and so can afford to work part-time. But I look forward to being able to immerse myself completely in my work. In the 80s, I went to art college in Nottingham, but I struggled to find my feet there, really. And I tried to change tack to study textile design instead. I didn't really give the fine art degree course a proper go because I think I had to preserve my grant or something like that. But this didn't work out, so actually left art behind, and for many years. One of my hang-ups at the time, when I was struggling, was that art seemed so self-indulgent to me, when I could see there was so much poverty and suffering on the city streets as I walked to college. My advice, therefore, to my younger self would be to use my art as a voice, really, to use my art voice to express what I felt about all that, to express what I felt about what I was seeing, and to just work hard at drawing, and keep going until I found my direction and I found my confidence. And maybe I would have called it a drawing project, and it would have helped me to work through those feelings until I could relax and find some gratitude just for the chance of being there. However, I didn't, I left. And over a decade later, took me a long time, but I managed to get back into art school, this time in Leicester, and this time to do a degree in surface decoration and textile design. This gave me the opportunity to explore all sorts of things. As you've asked for weird and wonderful materials that I've used, I've had a go at devore and etching on glass, amongst other things. I really like silence when I'm working. I work in a very old room in a very old house, and I just like the silence of it when I'm trying to figure things out. But once I sort of get near the end of a piece, I sometimes listen to podcasts and occasionally music, although it could be anything. The best reaction to my work, well, it was great that people bought my paintings. I did a little mini gallery in a shop window, and a lady bought 2 of them and then went on to buy 3 more. So that was a great reaction. And so what do I want people to take away? Well, I think I decided very early on that to free myself completely, I had to paint, to record something for myself, just for myself. And that way I could stay free, and I can do what I need to do and what I want to do without trying to second guess other people, which is a bit ironic now that I'm doing a couple of commissions. I'm trying to pin down a fleeting moment of my own lived experience. And really, I do that just for me. The rest of it is a secondary thing that takes place beyond the actual making of a painting. My work may trigger a separate emotional response in another person, but in a way that'll be entirely coincidental. I couldn't have known that would ever happen. So I don't try to do anything for people, just for myself. I'm just happy, really, if people want to enjoy looking at my work. And that's great. That's great for me. I'll have 2 pieces in Oldburgh, Suffolk this winter. It's at the Thompson's Gallery, and the 2 pieces will be at their winter show between Christmas and New Year. I've got a website if you want to see a bit more, which is www.sheenagriffiths-baker.com, and my Instagram account is Sheena Griffiths-Baker 1. Thank you very much for listening.